we're going to go down a little bit memory lane where, you know, crypto started with one asset. And this one asset was Bitcoin, and then hundreds of assets starting popping on layer ones. And it was kind of still, at that moment, realistic to buy these assets directly through various different ramps and also centralized exchanges. But where we're landing now, the space is changing rapidly. We're kind of witnessing a growth that is exponential from layer twos that right now we're at thousands of assets that are on chain, and quickly becoming millions of assets with the app chains and, you know, L3s and 4s and 5s. And the issue that we're kind of facing right now is that we're still using old ways, which creates new problems. The centralized exchange and traditional ramps that exist today, they were critical to bring us to where we are, but they struggle to meet the needs of these new projects that are launching on chain, whichever chain that is. So we need an evolved solution that meets this changing landscape. And we truly need to close this gap, because from discovery, when you learn about these new assets, the path to getting and acquiring this asset, whichever one that is not direct. You know, we have to go to these gas outlets, and then we need to figure out which is this right interfaces where we can acquire this asset, whether it's an interface of a DEX or a wallet. The user expects direct. You know, we're in a world where everything's instant. So this is why this is truly falling short. And that creates barriers to adoption. You know, this gas dependency that we need to acquire to then, you know, fulfill our end intent. From an on-ramping perspective, it's quite slow. I'm sure you've all on-ramped before, and the average time is many minutes. So if it's time sensitive, then you might have, you know, missed out completely on a specific window. Transactional costs are still quite high of on-ramping, depending on whichever market it's in. And then there's security concern because they are centralized, these platforms. And so what it creates is, for the mainstream users, it's a steep learning curve. There is a lot to learn to be able to acquire on-chain assets. And for crypto native, well, it creates a fragmented UX, which is, you know, this is not something we're excited about either. Now, the current landscape is, it's really this idea that all of these places where we currently buy these assets through centralized exchange or through these ramps, it's, you know, it creates this custodial dependency. It's not DeFi. You know, it's fully centralized. So these resellers, they control the asset supply, basically. They're the gatekeepers that decide, well, you can purchase this asset directly, or you can't purchase this asset directly, whether it's a Binance, whether it's a Coinbase, or whichever other centralized exchange or traditional ramp. And if we look at, you know, recently, there's been a lot of people that, you know, went out there and started to be vocal about this issue of gatekeeping and the cost to get listed. So the reality is, if you're a crypto project that is launching your asset on a specific chain, the reality of you being able to sell this token directly and enable fiat payments is quite low. It's actually quite near zero, because there's some form of catch-22 that requires you to be big to be bigger. So this opportunity is not given to everyone. And fundamentally, these assets are centralized. So it's a conflicting thing with DeFi's vision where, it should be around user empowerment and true decentralization. The idea if I'm a project and I have a token on chain and I have to send millions in value and quantity of my supply to a reseller, that really doesn't go with the ethos of DeFi. And it's very costly. So from a project's perspective, it creates growth limitation because there's high listing costs. There's these custodial requirements, like I've been saying. There's geographic restriction. The approval of these assets that can be listed or not is quite cumbersome and long. So what that creates is, from a market access, is a constrained reach. And DeFi's core ethos, there's alignment challenge, like I said, because it's all centralized and custodial. We've witnessed this kind of in the past, let's say 10, 15, 20 years when you used to travel, you basically have to queue up at a currency exchange so you could acquire the local currency to do commerce in that place that you went. This is kind of akin of what we're living right now. If I want to go and trade or do commerce in that specific chain, whether it's Base, Solana, or et cetera, I effectively have to queue up to that currency exchange. I have to go to a centralized exchange, buy the Solana. Then once I have the Solana, I have the local currency of that blockchain to trade. But then, that got abstracted. And if we look at our own behavior, or if we look at an airport or currency exchange, they're dead. Why? Because at the point of sale, like I was explaining before, from that point of discovery, we are now able to acquire or end intent, whether it's a product, a coffee, or whatever. We can now, without the need of acquiring the local currency, these payment network, they abstract this requirement. And this is what we need to unlock the on-chain access. So this is why we are on a mission to basically enable seamless on-chain payments experience free from those chain restriction, gas dependencies, and wallet complexities. So we're introducing Onchain Ramp. I mean, it's in the name. And what it does is that it lets these projects that have a token to sell them directly to their audience without having to get listed on a centralized exchange or having to split their supply, because we tap in their on-chain liquidity directly. So they can go from day one, they can get access to global audiences on day one. And I think that matters a lot, because if you're familiar with Business 101, your addressable market is as big, especially in this field. Your addressable market as a product, as a project, is as big as the people holding the gas. And acquiring this gas is cumbersome. So we're enabling them to sell their tokens direct. And this is what we call effectively, an evolved way of on-ramping. Effectively, it's not even on-ramping. It's just buying. And if we're successful with this, we truly believe that this coined verb of on-ramping could effectively go away. I mean, if you don't have to buy gas to then go and swap it on-chain for what you want, then you're no longer on-ramping. You're just buying. And I think that's what people want. They don't want to buy gas first. So this whole product or service, it's on-chain first, it's streamlined, it has the project info slider, there's no wait times because it's instant, and there's a built-in wallet in the flow. So if you've never heard about crypto before and you see one of those ramps on a project's website, you don't have to go and choose your wallet. You're given one in the flow that has social logins and everything. And it's built for business. So if you're running one of those token projects, you'll get information about your audience, like who's purchasing your token, insights. The listing cost is free. You don't have to pay hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to be listed and enable fiat payments. You're global from day one. You get your customers' insights. You get affiliate links, 24/7 support. And all of this is built on our proprietary protocol, which we call the on-chain payment network. That's a talk in itself, but it's basically a mesh network of treasuries that are deployed on each chain that lets us move value around extremely rapidly beyond fiat and USDC. We're a Circle Business Alliance partner. And how this is possible to unleash the power of on-chain payments? Well, it's really based on first principle where we do instant value exchange. This is the interchain router network I told you about, the mesh stablecoin layer. We have our own quote engine that's built for payments. We have a stablecoin replenishment system. And we're aiming for it to be trust minimized this year. So if you have any question, feel free to get in contact with me. If you know of a project or if you're part of a project that's having a hard time getting this token easily accessed, you can get in contact with us. And this is a bit of a vision into what we're aiming for is, on-chain is about everyday finance. And whoever comes in our ecosystem by the end of this year and start of next year, they'll be given the opportunity to move their everyday finance on-chain. They'll get a card, fully non-custodial. They'll be able to use any assets that's held in this wallet to go and spend it wherever they want. So we're really excited about this, but that's coming a little bit later. So we just wanted to give you a little bit of insights into what's coming. So that's it. Thank you so much.